So I'm all done making wreaths. I made my last two on Monday. I still needed to make two for my mom and dad. They have two doors at the front of their house. So that is done and just needs to get brought to their place. So I was able to clean up my garage, and now I'm able to rearrange it a bit and hopefully spend some time sorting through stuff, because I am a bit of a messy person. I will admit it, when I'm busy, everything just gets kind of thrown on shelves, and some of these shelves I haven't even looked at for years. So I would love to, over the next month, go through all my shelves, sort things out, and get organized, because I think that will help make my season more efficient next year. But I also was able to, like, this is one thing I did not forget to bring in this fall, but these are my chrysanthemums that I bought them from Longwood's flower farm in the spring, and I had potted the cuttings I got from Carolyn into these pots, and then I had taken my own cuttings in July and I put those cuttings in the field. So I have some in the field as an experiment to see if they will survive my winter. What I did forget to do was put, I don't know if I forgot, I was planning on collecting leaves around my own property, but the snow kind of caught me off guard. But I wanted to cover up my cuttings in the field, because I'm not sure I think they're a little bit touch and go whether they're hardy in my zone, whether they'll survive the winter. So it's an experiment to see whether they survive. I did move some of the grass clippings, leaves. There was some heavy stuff that my son had brought a couple weeks ago, so I moved some of that and dumped it on top of the cuttings. And if it does, it sounds like it might warm up next week, and maybe I can still collect some leaves and put some more on there. But I have at least one of each of the varieties in one of these pots. I think most of them, there's two pots. I think I started with 5 varieties, and I think I have 10 pots here. But now that I have a little bit of room in my garage, and I can have them by the window, I kind of want to see whether, I want to take cuttings off of these mother plants for sure next spring, but I want to know if maybe they'll just keep growing this winter. I think the garage might be too cold. I don't keep the garage very warm, but there's a little bit of light here. I don't have high expectations, but I thought today I'm just gonna, they all bloomed. Yeah, they started at the first week of October for me, and then the last one to bloom was actually my favorite bloom. And again, I did not do these right. So this one's like not a great stem. I think you can probably get a better stem. I better make sure yeah. Okay, this was my favorite one. This was River City, and it's done. It's falling apart. But it's been like sitting in bloom for like a month. It was definitely blooming a month ago, I think. I didn't take notes either, but if you order from Carolyn, or I'm gonna have to put in my notes another place in Ontario where you can order them from, because she's extremely knowledgeable too. They say bloom time. When you order a mum, it's going to tell you. Everyone calls these heirloom mums, but technically I don't know if any of them are, because an heirloom mum I think is one from like 50 years ago plus, and these are not. I think they keep breeding them just like Lysianthus and coming up with new and fun varieties. But I think I'm going to, I already actually ordered more for next year, but I'm going to maybe get some more as well. I really want to look at the bloom time, because I don't have a tunnel. If you really wanted to grow these well, you would want some sort of tunnel or greenhouse to put them in, because they bloom late. They bloom when everything else is done and when it's frosting outside. So they're very hardy, but I think the petals and the buds will take frost damage. So you would need some sort of protection. And then I did find, especially this, I don't know how to say them all. This is Krabi, Krabi. It looks different now because the bloom is so old. It's falling apart on me. There was so much wind damage because my property can be quite windy. And so even with the metal cages I had on these pots, the stems can really blow. So I think I would, if I had netting in the field, I would need like a couple strings of netting to really keep the stems from blowing, because it really wrecks the petals. But what are my thoughts on chrysanthemums the first year? super fun to try a new plant. I loved how big the blooms were if you disbudded all the side blooms. So like this one I didn't bud out, but normally you would have pinched that out earlier on, and if you take out all the side buds, you get these giant blooms on most varieties. You got to find the varieties that works for. It's just a great flower for end of season. It like has super duper vase life, so it's great. If I had them for market, if I could find varieties that would bloom for Thanksgiving, that would be ideal. But I think even for into all of October for me, I think that would be cool. And if I can find varieties that are not too tall and go under a low tunnel, that might work for me. Like I really like this. This was crabby. Crabby gets really tall, so I'd have to think through whether I could get some sort of cover over, or maybe I'd have to build a larger tunnel for him. Okay, I cut the blooms off because I'm hoping that will encourage some more growth from the bottom here with the runners that they shoot up, because then I can take my cuttings. Ideally, that's where you want to take your cuttings, but I'm tempted. You're not supposed to take cuttings off or they say you don't get as good of cuttings if you take them off of the stems that bloomed. I don't think supposedly your bloom next year is as big or as nice, but I'm tempted. I'm tempted to take cuttings off of these and see what happens. Okay, it's not very nice weather out this week. It was like we started the week, it was so cold. I had zero motivation to working outside. I did start the week trying to fix my tarps over my one dahlia patch, which it wasn't ideal because the weights all are frozen to the plastic. So I kind of fixed it up enough that now I'm just going to cross my fingers that we're going to have a nice sunny above freezing day with no wind in the near future. But it's not this week. It's not this week. This is the only chunk of time that we're having above freezing that I could like at least wear my work gloves. And the work gloves are nice for getting these trays cleaned up, because my goal is to end this year as ready as possible to start the next year. So I really want all my trays, I want the dirt out of here so they're not frozen today, but I can dump these trays, get them organized, and then get them in the garage, and they'll be ready to use hopefully right after the holidays. Okay, I think they need to go for a walk. They have a lot of energy. I just want to do one more thing. Like, I'm just trying to make sure I have everything as much as possible ready for seed starting. Trays are in the house now. I need to get more soil. I remember to get compost this year, so that's not frozen. What I did let freeze is my weed juice. That's like the mixture of the lisianthus stems, leaves, blooms that I let sit in water with a little bit of leaf mold. Totally forgot it by the barn, just was sitting there in my mess, so pretty frozen. I was most worried that my old pails that it was in would crack or leak, but they look good, they look good. And from what I can read online, it's okay that it's froze. It's not ideal, but it'll still be good. So I'm just gonna let that sit in the garage now. But I'm just making sure too that I have all my amendments and things that I want to add into my soil mix. Like in the basement, I have the worm castings, and I got kelp and some stuff here, but I like making that water soluble calcium. I think that's what it's called, WCA, that you use with like eggshells and apple cider vinegar. So I'm just going to get that started this week, because that takes about a week to make. And then I also have to make LAB, and that takes a bit longer. So that's the one that you make with rice water and milk, and it's really good for lisianthus seedlings to keep their roots healthy and to fight off some of those fungal diseases. So I'll get that started hopefully this weekend or next week. But for this, I just need those roasted eggshells. So I'm very thankful that I roasted a ton last spring. So I still have a decent amount left, and I'm going to use that up. And then apple cider vinegar, and then yeah, that's it. So good week. Did a little bit here and there. I'm feeling organized. There's definitely more to clean up, but there's always next week. And warmer weather will help with that. So, and I did take a few cuttings of the chrysanthemums. They're just in my kitchen window, so it's fun to have a few maybe possible plants started already for next year. But yeah, it was a good week. I hope you had a good week too, and I'll see you again next time.